They do look very nice.
Look good.
Thanks, Bryce.
Are we good? Matt?
I'll check that.
Okay.
Yeah, I think so. I'll just check to make sure it's.
I'd like to call tonight's meeting to order. It's February 12th, 6 p.m. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Do we have any additions to the agenda tonight?
There are none.
Anybody else? All right, then I need a motion to approve the agenda as submitted.
Move. A second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Need a motion to approve the minutes of the special meeting of January 15th and the regular meeting on January 15th.
Move.
Second?
Any discussion on either sets of minutes? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We kick off the meeting tonight with a district presentation from Scott Boodleman, the district superintendent. Thank you, Scott, for coming. And tonight's presentation is on the administrative budget.
Great.
We'll turn it over to you.
Okay, thank you for having me. I'm just going to pass out some materials here. Full disclosure, this was intended to be a three-person presentation, but President Jacobson told me, you can do it yourself. And she's the boss, so two people have the night off.
It's good for them.
Thank you.
Thanks, Scott.
So he's saying if there's any questions he can't answer, it's my fault.
I'm not even used to the passing them out job.
You're doing great.
Thanks.
Okay. Yeah, thank you for having me. This is Richard saying. As you said, I'm the district superintendent of Madison Ida BOCES, and I want to do a couple of things with you tonight. I want to talk to you a little bit about the BOCES structure, give you some information about our regional information center, give you some information about our instructional programs, give you some information about our non-instructional programs, and then talk to you a little bit about the BOCES budget. So if you pick up the folder that's sort of bound, the materials that are bound with a spiral bound, and just turn to the first page. This is just the BOCES organization chart. And just a couple of things to point out. We're very similar to a school district, but not identical. Specifically, in a school district, usually you have an instructional leader, and you also have a leader of the business side of the house. We have those individuals specifically. Our business leader is Lisa Decker. She's a deputy superintendent. She's been coming to these meetings with me for 15 or 16 years, not here tonight. Also on the instructional side is Matt Williams. Dr. Matt Williams, he's the assistant superintendent for curriculum and instruction. I intended to bring him tonight, but he's not here as well. I mean, we also have what's a little bit different than a school district is a regional information center. So we have essentially a third assistant superintendent that works in the area of technology. Another difference between BOCES and a school district is that my role is bifurcated. And so I'm the regional representative for the commissioner. Basically, I report directly to the commissioner. Mr. Dowsland does not. That role has been around since 1910. The BOCES has been around since 1948. So that role actually predates the BOCES. And when the legislature decided to put together the BOCES as a concept, a sharing mechanism for school districts, the legislature looked around and said, now who are we going to have do this? And so they put it on the backs of the district superintendents. Turning to the next page, this is just a description of how BOCES works. And I like to think of the first side, the left-hand side of the document, as our revenue page. And specifically, if you look at it, it says taxes. Just to let you know, BOCES does not have the power to levy taxes, so we don't get tax revenue like a school district. Second line says state aid. We also do not receive state aid. The primary source of BOCES funding is from school districts because we're market-driven. Basically, we respond to school district requests. We have to maintain a balanced budget, just like a school district. We also, unlike a school district, don't maintain a general fund balance. So whatever funds we bring in during the school year, during the year for services that we do not use, go back to school districts at the end of the year because we don't maintain a fund balance. We're subjected to the same audit process as our school districts. And at the bottom, you can see staffing. Because school districts decide every year what to participate in and what not to participate in, we staff up and down every year accordingly. So our staffing situation is much more dynamic than a school district is. On the next page, you can see, basically I like to think about this document as how we assess demand. As I said, we're market-driven, but we don't have a profit incentive. We respond to school district requests, but we don't retain the funds. So if you look at the top paragraph, BOCES provides services when 2 or more districts request it. That's a requirement. We can't do things that we aren't asked to do. And kids don't have to come to us. They come to us because they want to or because you want them to. So we really are a creature of the market. Second paragraph, school districts independently decide whether to purchase BOCES services. So every year by May 1st, Mr. Dowsland and his team make decisions about what they want to purchase from BOCES and what they do not want to purchase from BOCES. They make an agreement with us for a year, can't go any longer than a year, and then the following year they make other decisions. So it's not so much a decision of whether to participate or not to participate, it's more a matter of how to participate, how much, maybe it's 5 seats of a particular program this year, 8 the year after that, maybe no seats the following year. So they make those decisions. Because some services, are probably better provided at home. Not everything is best through BOCES. A lot of things are provided locally. And that's a decision that local leaders make. We anticipate need, so beginning each fall, we collaborate with the superintendents. We assemble superintendent committees, and they look at each one of our budgets, and they go line by line, and they have input on how we're expending funds, how we're putting things together. And what we ask them to do is project out what their participation might be. So Mr. Dowsland might say, I want to participate in policy services this year, and we build our budget based on an assumed volume of participation. Mr. Dowsland and Mr. Malloy, for example, or a couple of superintendents, that's how we decide how to price our products. But then what happens is that by May, sometimes those things shift, so the costs have to shift. But by May 1st, everything kind of gets locked in. And then you'll see also in that document, it says benchmark against competition. So unlike the teacher market, a lot of our non-instructional services, such as central bus maintenance or legal services or business office services, food service, we know what the private sector market is, and so we try to ensure that our price point is similar to what the private sector would be. We turn to the next page. So as I said before, the BOCES is sort of made up of 3 pillars. The first is technology, and there's also business services, and then instructional services. So the next document is just an overview of our technology division. So now our BOCES is charged with overseeing some of the functions of 9 school districts, plus the New York State School for the Deaf, so roughly 10. But our Regional Information Center oversees a greater geographical region. Specifically, there are 37 BOCES in the New York State, and of those 37 BOCES, 12 of them are RICs. And the BOCES that's right up the road, my BOCES, is one of the RICs. So basically what that means is that our BOCES provides technology services to 4 different BOCES in all of those school districts. So that's 49 school districts and 4 BOCES. And those BOCES are Madison, Oneida, Herkimer, Madison, Jefferson, Lewis, and Herkimer BOCES. And so the next several pages are just about RIC services. I won't go into the details of that. But if you continue to turn to the document that says instructional programs, it's a blue document, instructional programs by location. Just something to point out, you may have heard in recent years talked a lot about collaboration, regionalism, sort of sharing of services between school districts. I want to say that this superintendent group, of which Mr. Dowsland is a part, has long been talking about this. And one of the things we've noticed at BOCES is that across the last several decades, we've had approximately 40, 45, 48% of all juniors and seniors from all 9 school districts participating in BOCES programs. And so it's very high demand, but it never changes. And so what we thought is that maybe if we started bringing some of the BOCES programs to school districts, that the participation rate would grow. And then that's particularly important if you think about the Commissioner's initiative to increase graduation pathways and provide hands-on learning opportunities. And so what we've been doing, especially as school district populations shrink, is trying to put programs out into school districts or closer to school districts. And this is just a listing of where all of our current sites are. If you look at the top of the second column, North Broad Elementary School in Oneida, this district closed that school. We rented it almost the next day, and it filled up with regional students almost within a week after that, and we're already busting at the seams there. And that's not because, it's because basically it's because we're working together, right? We have economies of scale and schools work together. If you turn to the next page, begins, now that we're moved away from the RIC and away from where our programs are, this is a description of our secondary programs. So it's essentially our high school. And if you take a look at one of the documents I gave you that says Rossetti on the front of it, this is sort of a big overview of all of our CTE programs. I know I've provided you with this in the past, so I won't walk you through the specifics. But if you just take a look at each of the programs, you'll see there's a lot of information. There are the units of study, there are career options for the class, all the course credits, what the dual enrollment opportunities are, what the careers are associated with those pathways. So these are our CTE programs. Okay, so turning to the next page of your secondary programs, you can see the statistics specific to Hamilton. If you look at the class of 2025, for example, there were 15 students that were 2-year completers, and 14 of those students earned a technical endorsement. You can see the CTE placement of the completers from Hamilton. So 37% of the people who received a CTE completion certificate from BOCES, who also graduate from Hamilton, are pursuing post-secondary education. 42% are employed related to their CTE program, and 21% are employed unrelated to their program. And then in the next column, you can see the current year enrollment, 26 students in CTE, 3 students in career exploration. And then you can see the honor roll statistics, 14 students in high honors, 10 students in honor, and 1 student honorable mention. Just below that, the National Technical Honor Society membership. That's something that's very similar to your honor society, but it's through BOCES. Before I get too much further, you'll see attached to the end of your, attached to your packet is a student spotlight document. Just highlighting, I won't get into the specifics, but please read it at your leisure. Highlighting a couple of students who are Hamilton students that also participating in BOCES programs. But then in the next page of your spiral notebook, you'll see our collaborations with both Mohawk Valley Community College and Morrisville State College. We're trying to put programs into those colleges. Increasingly with Morrisville, we think there's a good collaboration opportunity with all the schools along Highway 20, including possibly even Cazenovia, for example, or schools even towards the Oneida BOCES region, where students can come and learn at Morrisville College. They can earn partway into an associate's degree. They can get a CTE completion certificate and still graduate from their local high school. The next page is a listing of all the dual credit opportunities available through BOCES, so you get college credit. And then after that, a description of our middle school services. I won't get too deep into that. Followed by elementary programs. Dr. Amanda Hopkins is the director of those programs. And after that, a description of our staff and curriculum development service. So these are the folks that provide professional development to teachers. And with the exception of perhaps the adult education program or catalog that I provided you, that's the end of my instructional program description. If you take that other document, just something you should be aware of, BOCES also is engaged in educating adults. So this is nothing school districts pay for. This is tuition-based, right? So the consumers are actually paying for the classes. So a lot of night classes at BOCES. We have a couple of sites in Utica that we provide classes in. It's a partnership we have with Oneida BOCES. So it's a consortium of services. So if you want to learn how to dance or, you know, fix a car or whatever it is, you can do adult education.
No, I'm fixing a car.
So turning back, I think pickleball's in there too. So turning to the next page in the document, this moves to management services. So Lisa Decker has our management services, and the document begins with the services you're involved with. You're in the policy service, level 1 policy service. You're in the labor relations service, and you use our legal services through an intermunicipal agreement. You're also engaged with business office services and printing and public information. I guess printing and public information. And then as you turn to the next page, you can see transportation services. We have central bus maintenance under the Costello Center, which you've become fairly familiar. And then Lee Farrell, our Director of Human Resources, is also a regional certification officer. So that basically means she helps school districts ensure that their staff have the appropriate certification for their positions. After that, there's a description of each of the services we provide on management services. They're not simply the ones that you're involved with, but you are involved in labor relations. You're involved with business services and printing. The school communications is another service we provide. Planning and grant writing, transportation services, that's central bus maintenance, and then school food management is also available. Building services, we do provide some building services support. And then our human resource office does regional certification assistance. Any questions about that before I get into the stuff Matt's been waiting for? Stuff that Lisa usually loves to do. Okay. All right, so the next document is blue. This is our administrative budget. And I just want to walk you through the specifics. If you look at the side that says A, administrative expenses, the first line is salaries. So these are the salaries for the deputy and district superintendent, the director of business services, treasurer, the human resources director, and 4.5 clerical individuals. And then the next line demonstrates the fringe benefits associated with those positions. We have a couple of lines dedicated to equipment, supplies, and software. We have a line for interest grant borrowings in case for cash flow purposes over the summer, we bill 10 times a year. We've not had to use it for many years, but we do have a budget line for that. And then other expenses such as meetings, mileage, and workshop. We are subject to the same audit rules, so we have an auditing fee that we pay to an auditor. And then membership fees such as NISBA, NISCUS, ASBO, Verazda, Rural Schools, and Statewide School Finance Consortium on behalf of all the school districts. We have some contractual obligations, legal fees, and then we have superintendent regional meetings, a line for that, postage and advertising, and then below that you can see internal charges. So just like you purchase services from the BOCES, our central administration team has to purchase services from some of our departments as well. That's what those lines represent. So the proposed total administrative expense and direct costs going from 2025-26 to 26-27 last year is $1,779,288. This year going $1,837,469. So those are our direct expenses.
And that's 3.3%, is that why that's there? Next
Yes,
to it?
that's
Okay.
what that is. 3.3%. Yep,
Thank you.
sure. So if you go to the next side, BOCES is a little unlike school districts. We have to put all of our retiree health insurance into our administrative budget. That's something that's required by law. And that next line represents our retiree health costs. So we have 296 people retired, and we're anticipating 20 more. So when you think about retiree health insurance, these are not people working in BOCES. These are people working in school districts, across 49 school districts, right? So these are legacy costs that would be borne by school districts if they were not working in BOCES. That's essentially what that is. So So if you look, when you add in the retiree health insurance expense, the total administrative budget goes from $7,495,365 to $8,028,676. And then dropping below that, you can see the revenue sources, indirect costs, interest, money we receive from non-components, the retiree drug subsidy. Each year we set aside money in a collections and advance account to offset health insurance expenses. That's that next line. And then finally, what we're asking local component school districts to pay this year, going from $1,287,306 to $1,306,500, going up, just under $20,000. And then at the bottom, you can see how that cost is distributed. So the first column is our WADA, that's resident weighted average daily attendance. It's a calculation based on student enrollment and attendance, and it's weighted in such a way so that actually secondary students get weighted a little more heavily than primary students. So that's that first number. So you can see regionally, we actually increased by 2 our WADA, looking at 2025 to 26, jumping to 26, 27, went from 13,824 to 13,826. Unusual, usually our WADA drops. This year it actually went up a bit. But in the case of Hamilton, you went from 582 our WADAs to 561, so you lost 21 our WADAs. And that affects your percent of share. So last year you had 4.2% of share of the cost. This year going to 4.1%. So although you dropped a significant number of our WADA, it doesn't appear you moved too much in the percent share because the rest of the region must have shifted accordingly. And then the corresponding dollar share, the next column. The next column is the estimated aid ratio. So your aid ratio, this is something that comes to us from the state, going from 62.5% to 62%. And then the next column shows the aid that you'll receive back on your expense. And then the final column is the estimated local share. Last year, $31,638. This year, going to $29,201. Questions about the administrative budget? Last one. This is our capital and rent budget. This is a green document, and this is something we've seen in prior years as well. So the first line in this budget document is rented space. So this is space that we rent from school districts, right? And so it's an expense to us. It's actually revenue to school districts. So any increase you see in this line is actually going to school districts. So for example, we rent space from VBS, we rent Costello Center, you folks have been there, several other sites. We have a rent committee that consists of superintendents, Superintendent Graves, Malloy, and Carpenter. So that would be VBS, Morrisville, and Oneida. And they establish the rent rates for the year. So they get together, and they did recommend an increase this year. We're also planning on some additional spaces at VBS based on school district requests for services. So you can see how that number goes up. And then we also have our own line for facilities projects, ongoing security work. So the proposed budget, or last year's budget for rent and capital is $1,842,639, going to $1,885,058. And then the distribution below is just as I described on the last document. Estimated our WADA, yours is going from 582 to 561. Your percent share 4.2% to 4.1%. You can see your corresponding dollar share. You can see the aid ratio, again, dropping from 62.5 to 62%. The estimated aid as a result of that. And then the change in your cost. Last year, your actual local share after reimbursement, $29,091, going to $29,065. And then you're next. Any questions about that? Any questions about it?
Crazy we've dropped 21.
With our WADA?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Thank you.
of course.
Thanks.
Just a reminder, I think there's a couple of postcards in your packet. We have an open house on March 19th at 5:30. This is a time for students to come and see other instructors. instructors and learn about Alyssa's programs, but also annual meeting on April 15th at Rossetti Center at 6 p.m. So see you here. Okay.
Thanks, Scott.
Great,
Thank you.
thank you. Excellent. See, you were able to do it without them.
You did
You did great without them.
Right.
Yes. A veteran.
Take some of these.
All right. Yeah. Moves us to the consent agenda. Today, the consent agenda is 4.1 through 5.2. Can I have a motion to approve the following consent agenda?
I'll move.
Second.
Are there any discussions on the treasurer's report, consideration of claims, transportation report, cafeteria report, audit, claims auditor, or the policy regulations?
Good job on getting rid of so many policies. Like that.
Cleaned it up.
Yeah.
It's nice.
Yeah.
Good work, guys.
Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
That brings us to our first community participation time. If you would like to, please come to the podium. Please remember, we do have a policy that does limits to 5 minutes, and floor is open. Seeing nobody jumping to their feet, I will move on. We have some resignations. I need a motion to accept the resignation of Chelsea Carhart-Lehman as Office Assistant 2, effective February 3rd, as recommended by the superintendent. This is with sincere appreciation for services rendered to the district.
Second?
Discussion would be an executive session. All those in favor?
Aye.
I need a motion to accept the resignation of Cassandra Britton as teacher aide effective January 30th, 2026, as recommended by the superintendent. This resignation is contingent upon the approval of her new role, effective February 2nd.
Move.
Second?
Discussion would be an executive session. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. I need a motion to accept the resignation of Dawn Giddings, orchestra teacher, effective June 30th, 2026, as recommended by the administrative team and superintendent, with sincere appreciation for her services rendered to the district.
Second.
Discussion will be an executive session. All those in favor?
Aye.
I need a motion to approve the leave of absence for child rearing purposes for Victoria Poutzay, with tentative dates of June 22nd through November 30th, as recommended by the superintendent.
Move.
Second.
Discussion would be an executive session. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I need a motion to approve the addition of Paula Dart to the substitute list for the role of substitute nurse, and to appoint Alexis Havlin to the substitute list for both non-instructional and instructional roles, and Denny Aris and
Hilya Osney.
Hilya Osney to the superintendent list as substitute teachers, as recommended by the administrative team and superintendent.
I'll move.
Second?
Discussion would be an executive session. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Need a motion to approve the appointment of Cassandra Britton as probationary office assistant 2, effective February 2nd through August 1st. That's the probation period, as outlined in the recommendation form and as recommended by the elementary principal and superintendent.
Second.
Discussion would be an executive session. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I need a motion to approve the appointment of Amanda Armlin as probationary part-time teacher aide bus aide, effective February 13th, as outlined in the recommendation form and as recommended by the director of PPS and superintendent.
Move.
Second.
Discussion would be an executive session. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I need a motion to approve Zachary Thomas as the varsity baseball coach for the 25-26 school year, as outlined in the recommendation form, contingent upon significant participation, as recommended by the athletic coordinator, athletic director, and superintendent.
Move.
Second.
Discussion would be an executive session. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. I need a motion to approve the recommendation of committees on special education and preschool special education.
We'll move.
Second.
Discussion would be an executive session. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. I need a motion to accept the following monetary donations with sincere appreciation and increase the budget by these amounts as recommended by the business manager and superintendent.
Move.
Second.
Hamilton Emerald Foundation, St. Thomas Episcopal Church, and the First Baptist Church Deacons Fund. Discussion?
Thanks to all of them.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. I need a motion to accept the proposal submitted by the Benadio Group. Benadio Group.
Bonadio.
See, I knew I wasn't going to say it right. The Independent Financial Audit Services for the 25-26 through 29-30 school years, and to approve the group as the district's independent financial auditor for that term as recommended by the business manager and superintendent.
Second.
Discussion? Can you give us just a little bit of background?
Yeah, sure. So we, Swinar Company, we just completed our 5th year of our second 5-year term with them. So we put out a request for proposals for new audit firms to get a new 5-year agreement. We had 2, Swinar did not submit a proposal, but we did have 2 firms submit proposals. So the Bonadio Group out of Syracuse, and then, pardon me if I screw this up, it's an acronym, I think it's the MMB Group out of Rochester. Both very reputable firms, both with a lot of experience in schools. Both very highly recommended by the schools and the clients they currently work with, but Bonadio was had the lower cost, both in year 1 and throughout the 5-year term, so
Excellent.
it's the recommendation.
Thank you so much for doing
Thanks.
all that work. Other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I need a motion to approve the following the following resolution pertaining to the capital improvement project, Proposition 2 revote. I'm not going to read it all, but it is there, so I'm going to give it just a moment. And this will be a roll call vote. So I will have Jody. Oh, we need a motion,
I'll move.
sorry.
Second.
So this will be a roll call vote. Is there any discussion prior to that? So this is saying that we're going to go out for the revote, that we're going to go out on March 31st for the revote for Proposition 2.
I think the discussion we had last month made a lot of sense to me, and I think it's pretty clear for me on my part.
Same.
We'll work to send information out to the community again.
Yes, yep, we have a draft flyer that will go out, we have community forums that we'll schedule, and do a number of public presentations
Okay.
about, just pertaining to Prop 2.
And again, the reason why we're doing this is because the first time the vote came through as a tie vote, which legally means it was defeated, but because it was a tie, we as the board felt that it was important to bring the safety enhancements back to the community to get a definite or a defined answer for this.
From a project standpoint, and from a district standpoint, this is work that really needs to be done from a safety standpoint. You know, it is the one opportunity that we have to enhance our pickup and drop off from a safety standpoint.
and help that lighting at nighttime.
And the only way to accomplish that really is the demolition of the existing bus garage and relocation of it, so it's work that is imperative for the district.
And the bus garage is not doing well on its own, so.
It is not. It
That will
is-
help that as well.
It
so.
is not inhabited right now, it's basically cold storage.
Other discussion? Okay, I'll turn it over to Jody.
Sonia is absent, so Corey,
Aye.
Amanda,
Aye.
Jen,
Aye.
Michelle.
Aye. So now we need a motion to approve the legal notice for the capital project proposition to revote on March 31st and to authorize the district clerk to make any necessary changes needed.
I'll move.
Second.
Discussion? Thank you, Jody, Matt, and Bill for the work that you're putting in, for the work that you've continued to do since December, and that we'll be doing through March 31st on this project, getting us up and running for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion to adopt the 26-27 school calendar as recommended by the superintendent.
I'll move.
Second.
Discussion? I think the first thing I wanted to just point out when I looked at it was the start date is before Labor Day.
It is.
It's done that, it's that way for the BOCES, and that's the calendar that we follow our calendar based on. But that's a change.
It is a change. Labor Day is a week later this year, so we would have 2 superintendent's days prior to Labor Day and 2 instructional days prior to Labor Day.
And we'd have Labor Day off and then a 4-day week, and then move in from there.
And this calendar does have 6 emergency days built in, which I think is important given the trends in weather that we've been experiencing. And this is done in collaboration with all the components within our BOCES, and it aligns with all our contractual obligations and aligns with BOCES, CTE, and special ed programs. So that ensures continuity of instruction for our students traveling to BOCES.
I think the important piece about the 6 emergency days is the fact that it's not just snow days now. We now have heat days, and in September and in May and June, we have really hot days, and there's laws about that we have to follow. And so not just baking in for the winter, but also we use our emergency days for other reasons. A couple years ago, we had a bus driver shortage.
Correct.
There could be problems and things that come up that we need these days for on top of the weather itself. And obviously those days will be given back if we don't need them, but it's good to have them. It's harder to take them when we don't have them out front. And it also saves us in that sense of dreaded virtual days. I've never been one that wanted to move to that. There are schools that don't have snow days. They go full virtual for everything, and I think it's important for us to maintain the snow days. It's a thing that all students should be able to enjoy, right? Like the fact that you can wake up and figure out that your alarm didn't go off because your parents shut it off for you is a really fun thing. So I'm glad we have 6 days. There was one year we dropped and we were down to 4, and that was touch and go for a little while.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that we're looking at that. But I do think the important thing is for parents to understand that we are starting before Labor Day. So we'll have to send some notices out now, and as we get closer, so that vacations are considered. Other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you to BOCES and you guys for getting that out to us early. That brings us to information and correspondence. Superintendent's report, the program calendar discussion. We just have that.
Yeah. Yep. I just have 2 additions to my written report. The annual emergency go home drill is required by NICEAD. We've scheduled that for Thursday, April 2nd. I know that's a ways away, but I wanted to announce that, and we will, as that date nears, we will send out communications. That's the annual drill where students are dismissed at 2:30 and have to vacate the premises, and then they come back for practices and extracurriculars. But that is a requirement by NICEAD, so that'll be April 2nd. And then the second thing, I just wanted to provide an update about the graduation requirements and the role of the Regents exams. There's been some questions around the state about Regents exams and what exactly is happening with the role of these new requirements. And I wanted to publicly state, until the Board of Regents adopts regulatory changes and NICEAD issues final operative guidance for specific cohorts, districts must continue to apply the current diploma requirements as stated in the Commissioner's regulations. So core diploma requirements is unchanged. Students can still earn a local diploma, a Regents diploma with advanced designation under the current rules. Regents exams remain the default diploma assessments for most students. There are some NICEAD approved alternatives that we adhere to. And what is new, and we actually utilized this last year, there's exemptions for major life events. So a student that experiences a major life event, the superintendent has the leeway to exempt that student from a Regents exam. And there's a process that we go through for that. Everything else is the same until the Commissioner adopts and the Board of Regents adopts these new regulations. Everything is as is, status quo for graduation requirements.
Anything else?
Nope.
I just wanted to put in here that we're down to 5 months left before Bill's retirement, and that as we completed his mid-year review, as we always do, that we discussed that we have some areas of focus, and I wanted to make sure that we stated them here tonight. That those areas of focus should be the schedule implementation, regardless of on the Route 20 corridor piece, but that our schedule implementation is solidified, the capital project, and the day-to-day operations of the business. So we know you have a ton of other things to do, and that you will be focused on those as they arise, but as far as the board is concerned, those are your top priorities for the next couple of months. And we're not looking forward to it being over. So there you go.
Understood.
Understood. So that brings us to the administrative reports. Anybody have questions or comments regarding any of those? Again, thank you to the administrative team for spending the time to put those together, giving us updates so that we have a good idea of what's happening in school. It's our access to what's happening here since we're not here on a daily basis, so we appreciate that. Business manager report is all Matt.
Thank you.
Of course.
Good evening, everyone. I have two updates to provide for you. First, I'll touch on everybody's favorite topic, and that's electric school buses. We just filed a waiver with New York State. It's due
You're taking my
March
thunder
1st.
again.
Oh, yeah.
First thing on my list.
Hopefully you'll talk a little bit about the advocacy part of it, Jen. I'll talk about more just the district-specific stuff that we're going through.
Oh, that's
with regard to the waiver. So we had, there's a waiver process that took place this year, and I believe it'll take place in subsequent years for school districts that basically are not moving forward at the moment with the purchase of electric school buses for a variety of reasons. It could be due to denial of funding, voter denial, so districts that are actually sort of ahead of the curve a little bit timing-wise, but are having votes being turned down locally, supply chain delays and demand issues with manufacturers, if there's significant infrastructure upgrades needed in the communities, or if you're still in the process of developing fleet plans and electrification plans through third parties, and in our case through Polaro with NYSERDA. So that last example is the reason why we have filed that waiver. We We are still awaiting the final report from Polera. The initial feedback that we've gotten through the Village of Hamilton, because we are solely on the village electric utility, is that we would have the juice, if you will, based on the fleet study that was completed to provide enough for buses here on campus. One of the things that were sort of an emerging concern, and sorry, Jen, if this is something that's come up, I think you all are familiar with Rick Timms. You've heard Rick speak before, School Boards Institute. A lot of these studies are being done in isolation for each individual school district, and there's not a larger consideration being done with regard to the total strain on the grid. So can District A have enough juice? Yes. Does District B have enough juice? Yes. How about C? Yes. What happens when they're all trying to do this at the same time? So there continues to be concerns about this, and I think Jen will talk a little bit about that, but basically for us, we continue to show progress, we continue to make progress, working with the village, working with Polera, but we're just buying a little bit more time. Oddly enough, with these, they're actually 2-year waivers, so with the mandate of after July 1 of 27, purchasing electric buses, with an approved waiver, you would still get funding for traditional fuel buses after that point. However, the end date of the mandate of 2035 has not moved back. So the general consensus seems to be that ultimately is going to happen as districts try to navigate this and try to move forward. It's anticipated that there will be infrastructure problems that emerge. There will be supply chain delays and issues with manufacturing. There will be voter denial. There will be funding denial. So as that happens, there's sort of still this underlying belief that things will eventually be pushed back. But we're in good shape. The village has been cooperative with Polera. We're moving forward. But, so this year, in this year's budget, we will be purchasing or proposing to purchase an additional full-size traditionally fueled diesel bus. So any questions on that? Jen, hopefully I left you something to say.
That was good. I like when you talk about it. You're more in depth.
Secondly, just an update on the budget. Similar to Scott's presentation today, we have things that are sort of starting to come in with regard to the budget on the expense side, so we start to plug those numbers in. If you recall, last year we were in contract negotiations with both of our bargaining units, so this budget cycle there's a lot of sort of truing up the budget because last year there were a lot of unknowns, so it's not as easy as just rolling things over and plugging numbers in. We really, most of our budget lines, we start with a zero-based philosophy and we figure out, try to project those costs. So it's not just a simple rolling things over, especially this year because of that. Just to put this out there, and Bill knows, our team knows, our local leadership knows, we've had a conversation. This is going to be sort of the year of health insurance. In the last couple of years, it was finding a way to maintain programs and positions from expiring federal funding that came post-COVID, post-pandemic. This year, health insurance is going to be the real thorn in district side from a budgeting standpoint. And that's not unique to Hamilton. It's not unique to our health consortium, which we are very pleased to be in, which is very efficient, and we're in a good place there. It's not unique to just school districts in New York State. This is the trend everywhere. Our third-party administrator of our consortium plan is recommending a 9% increase in premium next year. So that will be decided ultimately at our March consortium meeting. Even if we do, we will try to get creative. We will have very in-depth conversations about trying to get that number down a little bit by utilizing reserves, and we'll continue to follow trends. But the claim trends are what is driving these premium increases. The high-cost claimants, specialty medications is really what's driving these claims. And again, not just our consortium, but all over the place with regard to healthcare. So we are in a good place, but it is going to be a challenge this year. Just to put that into context, the line item in our budget for the district's contributions to health insurance premium is about $3.5 million. So if you think of $35,000 for every 1% of an increase, 9% would be $315,000. So it's a significant lift. And then for further context, that's the equivalent of a 3.3% tax levy increase. So if everything was equal, and the only thing going up was health insurance on that line, 9%, no other revenues would increase, that would be a 3.3% tax levy increase, which exceeds our allowable levy increase under the tax cap. So with regard to the tax cap, March 1st, that calculation is due to be submitted to the Office of the State Comptroller. I believe at the last meeting I reported that I was expecting our increase to be about 2.6. It's actually going to be lower, but really that's not bad news necessarily. It's probably going to be closer to 2.25 or 2.3. But that's directly correlated with the principal and interest payments on our capital project and converting our short-term borrowings into long-term financing. So up until this point, we've had to use estimates based on what our fiscal advisors thought the interest rate might be. Now that we have converted that short-term financing into long-term debt, with that interest rate being lower, that essentially lowers our allowable levy increase. But there's a direct correlation with principal and interest payments. So while the allowable came down a bit, on the expense side, the principal and interest payments came down as well. So you know about the governor's proposal, 1% hold harmless increase in foundation aid for us, which has sort of become the norm. We'll see what happens in the next couple months, but hopefully we'll see an uptick there. We've had preliminary meetings with the team, and frankly, we will have to look very close in the next couple months. Any opportunities we have through attrition, we will look long and hard at any position that becomes vacant for whatever reason in the next couple months as we build the budget, because I really don't see us getting to a tax cap compliant budget without some changes in staffing. That's just the reality. And we talked about the $3.5 million just for health insurance. Probably 70 to 75% of our operating budget is personnel. So that's always what we do initially. We're going to try to get to that tax cap compliant number, and we will let you know what is required to do that, and then we'll go from there. But we'll be taking a long, hard look at things. So it's sort of the new norm. It shouldn't be too much of a surprise, because I feel like that's my message every year at this time. So I don't know if anybody has any questions in general, but that's all I have.
No, I appreciate the fact that you bring it up, right? That we're open about it now. We can hope for the best with a lot of different things, but the fact that you're here, you're explaining it to us now, so that as we go forward in this, we have a better understanding of where we're starting, and that it's not a surprise. So I appreciate that.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Matt.
We'll turn it over to Lily.
All right, so I was planning on sharing a civic education survey to high school students here. I'm in this online program called Democracy Ready, and it advocates for civic education and youth engagement. So this survey would highlight what specific social study courses we have here, or what clubs are related to youth engagement, or field trips that are related to civic education. So I can share with you all if you'd like. I can email it to you. But I was planning on just sharing it with a random selection of high school students just to see the results. It's targeted towards high school students in New York, so different schools across New York. So I was planning on doing that. And just in general, I've heard from a lot of students that extracurriculars are going well, especially with the field trips. I've been hearing a lot of great things, so that's really good. And we recently had an SSAC meeting yesterday, mostly talking about the straight 9 schedule that will most likely be implemented next year. So Mr. Dowson shared a few updates to the students, and we heard some more comments and concerns, and they're just waiting for confirmation on what the schedule would look like next year. And I know that we're all waiting for that too, but they're just waiting for confirmation.
With that survey, how many people are you hoping to administer it to, and at what grade levels?
So grades 9 to 12, and they said that they wanted at least 15 responses. at least, but in total 250 from the cohort that I'm in right now.
Would you share a little bit about your cohort,
Yeah,
the
sure.
program? 'Cause I
Yeah.
think it's exciting.
So we meet weekly on Wednesdays from 7 to 8 p.m. and we made the survey together. So actually, I can pull it up right now. It asks questions like, which of the following have your classes included in their curricula? Volunteering, U.S. history, fact-checking, navigating social media algorithms, and if they offer student government after-school programs or in-school co-curricular programs. So questions like that for students. And we're also making a survey for teachers and administrators, just seeing how well they offer civic education in New York State high schools. So we're also, I think Civic Education Week is happening soon. It's in March, I think. So we are planning, I think we work with superintendents across New York as well, and we help plan for that special week. So we haven't started that yet, but that's what apparently our next meeting is going to highlight. So
Great.
excited.
Great.
Yeah.
Sounds
Good
exciting.
job.
Well, thank you for that work.
Thanks, Liz.
Elementary and secondary committees?
I was not able to attend secondary this month. Elementary, we talked a little bit about Wellness Day that's coming up and Global Day of Play, which happened. And we're gonna do a March Madness for reading. That really worked well last year, so we're gonna do that again. Where I think Ms. Jerome, curates a whole selection of books per classroom, and then they all get to read it in their brackets and all this. Very exciting for elementary. And most importantly, our first parenting cafe, they got a grant to do the community cafe. And so that is coming up the end of the month. I think we got something out on Parent Square about it.
Mhm.
And that, so far there are 11 families that are signed up for it. So we're trying to get more participation. If anybody is free to come to that, there's gonna be dinner provided and childcare provided. And the topic is going to be, let's see, the screen time, AI, digital responsibility, that sort of thing. And I think Chris is going to be spearheading that. And then they have different teachers that are gonna be kind of leading the discussions for everybody. So I'm signed up, it should be exciting. And then the other ones, the other survey ideas that they're looking into they sent out a survey that maybe everybody filled out about what topics are interesting to them. And family cooking came up and early childhood resources, so those might be the next two that we're looking at to get done during this school year. So exciting. What was the date of that? February 26th, yes. 5:30.
Great. I was just looking up so I could give more information here. So Inclusivity Committee met. They're working on some great ideas for a community day and to bring in different aspects of different people's heritages from, different ways that the game is interrupting me, I'm sorry. Go green. And kind of create different opportunities for students to learn about what each family does that's a little bit different in their homes. I'm not explaining it well at the moment, but they will be doing it on or around May Jam, and so that'll be part of the beginning part of the day where they'll go through different groups and learn a couple of different things about different cultures or different religions or different things that people do in their homes and kind of explain who we are as a community. And so we're hoping that it brings a good community feel to the school. So there has been a message sent out, a request for volunteers, so if you can think of anybody that would be good for that. I know I took that Parent Square message and forwarded it on to a couple different parents to encourage them. But I think it would be a good thing. We have only sent it out to Parent Square, so it hasn't gone out to the broader community at this point. We're hoping to get the parents in the building first to be the volunteers, and then we'll see kind of where we're at there before we reach further. So good work being done with that group, and Chris has done a great job leading us.
Great.
Policy committee is
No other updates.
not meeting because of the holdup with the policy.
Yeah, we had, but we
Yeah.
had been doing the.
Right. Advocacy, we'll turn it back to Jen.
So I attended the Capitol Conference. It was online on Friday. I did not attend Lobby Day yesterday. I was preoccupied. But just some high-level things from the Capitol Conference. Very first thing that got brought up was the electric buses and about the bus waiver, and basically saying like this isn't an out, and it was Hochul's office saying like the governor it is an initiative she wants. She's not going to back down on it. She hears the concerns, and so basically the waiver was kind of like a Band-Aid to prolong it. And there were a lot of people coming forward that have already put out to vote for these electric buses and getting the votes voted down. And there was really no answers what to do with that. It was just like, we hear you, and the waiver's in place, and utilize that. So then the Commissioner Rosa came on and spoke about a lot of things, Inspire and Portrait of a Graduate, and one of the questions that the NISBA rep asked her was, what is some advice that you have for school board members and things that you want them to be mindful of? I felt like this was kind of interesting. She had said, we need to be mindful of unforeseen consequences of initiatives. And she said keeps being so many initiatives are happening in districts, and people are starting to feel like it's just one more thing, and to really be mindful of the fiscal impact of these initiatives long term, and to be mindful of the front line. And she said she's seen a lot of schools robbing Peter to pay Paul and using that concept, and that was her advice, is be mindful of initiatives. Lots of questions got brought up about UPK and what that's going to mean, and we were advised that more information would be forthcoming. The biggest thing coming up is right now, like UPK is transportation's not funded. So what is that going to mean? Are they going to start funding transportation? And there's a lot of concerns around that for a lot of districts. Again, a lot of budget stuff got brought up, and basically it was acknowledged that many school districts are tapping into reserves more than they ever have. Even districts that hadn't in years are starting to utilize that, and to really try to start long-term planning, because obviously those reserves aren't going to be there forever, and obviously if you're using them, you're not replenishing them, and again, it was just kind of like, we hear you and we know you're doing this. There was then Assemblyman Benedetto and Senator Mayer came on. Lots of questions to them about the formula, and basically, again, they were like, we've done the Rockefeller study, there's a lot of factors, lots of things that came up, but we're kind of at a hold on that now because there's just so many components of it and so many factors. And then, I probably should have known this, but I didn't know this. There's so many variances in it because, like, they used Yonkers, for example, and the city actually pays 50% of their school budget. And then a lot of the big five schools that they look at for a lot of this stuff are inconsistent with what the city is contributing. And then there's many other districts where, like, their cities and villages don't pay anything. So again, it was just like, we're not really sure. We did this study, but I felt like there were a lot of excuses in that conversation.
Mm-hmm.
But again, the question was asked to them, what are some topics that we, like school districts, should be aware of right now. We asked them for the top 3, and between the 2 of them, they came up with emerging difficulty on gender issues, literacy, especially as it pertains to some of the direction coming down from NICEAD, and basically any districts that are behind in this area are really probably going to be in trouble. So just to stay on that, and then obviously like immigration. And then some political analysts came on, and they were talking a lot about data, and they gave this stat of, it's funny, they were talking about data, but then gave the statistic of meaningless data rose 25% last year. And basically, when we are presenting our budget, not to bury people with numbers, give them high-level numbers, but we need to use more like real-life things that they can relate to, minus just all the numbers. And their advice was to not lie, because your constituents will always find out, well, of course, so very proud of us in that realm. Give common documents to all contingency groups when you're advocating, and to be super like as school specific as you can. So it was interesting. I thought that they had a really diverse group of people. I thought it was great that Commissioner Rosa got on, because a lot of times it's there's people on for her, so I thought that that was really great. And basically, you know, every time somebody was asked about the budget, it was just like, don't plan for an increase, plan to be flat at best. So that was the common theme amongst everyone.
Well, thank you for being on that.
No problem.
And for bringing that back for us. Tonight I just wanted to remind us all that we need to let Jody know if we're going to the April 15th annual meeting, which Scott discussed. I will be. And so if,
I emailed you.
I was going to say, I think we've started letting you know, but if we haven't let her know, please let her know soon, including Lily. Okay.
It's a great name.
So there's that. As far as an extra update under the budget realm, budget coffee dates will be forthcoming. So we expect people to keep their eye out for that, and we'll do our best to make sure we notify of those budget coffees as we get further along. March 2nd is the day that petitions are available for the Board of Education candidates. We will have 2 seats up this year as we run in a 2-2-1 cycle. So please contact Jody Chantel in the district office for more information if you plan to run for the board. Again, that's March 2nd. And along with that, how to become a school board member candidate, what you need to know, that's a class or a course you can take, and Jody has more information on that as well in the district office, so please connect with her there. So those were the big updates there.
Just one thing on budget coffees, we will not start budget coffees until after the Proposition 2 vote. We think it's important to keep them completely separate so there's no confusion on funding and programming. So those budget coffees will be after Prop 2 vote on March 31st. So in April, we'll start the budget coffees.
Good idea.
Mm-hmm.
That brings us to our community participation. Please remember we have a policy that limits you to 5 minutes. If you'd like to stand up and go to the podium, you are welcome to do so.
Michelle's already heard part of what I wanted to ask. I'm old, and as my grandfather always told me, I seem to be more busy in retirement than I was when I worked. Is there a regulation when the budget has, not the budget, the agenda has to be on the website? Because I went in earlier this week, and it's like, sometimes I can't make these meetings, I want to know what's going on type of thing. When I tried to go through the policy, whatever, I thought it said a week before or whatever, but again, reading was kind of hard. And the other, which brought this up with comment with Michelle was, and it now angers me a bit, last month, the public hearing for the budget, or for the capital project, on what I saw and printed out said 6 PM. And I showed up at 6 PM and it had already been done. And now I went back into the website today, and it's now been changed to 5:30 on the printout. I'm saying it's after the fact, people. I mean, just leave it at 6 o'clock, and if somebody asks, say, it's an error in printing. It happens, I really. And Matt, I thought there was a preliminary budget calendar out already. Did I see it or get confused? So those dates aren't really that confirmed for coffee dates and so forth. I thought I saw something you guys had published, the dates for.
Okay. We'll check stuff out. We don't tend to respond here, but we will check things out and we will get back to you.
Well, no, I just, you know,
Yeah. We will
I'm
be in,
thinking that they could change.
Yeah.
I'm happy to respond if you're okay with me responding.
if you would like to, you're welcome. For that piece?
The budget calendar is adopted in November. Many of the dates are set in stone by statute. As far as local meetings, it says time subject to change. Those tentative dates for coffees were decided in November without knowing that there was even this potential of having a second capital project vote in March. So the coffees have not been scheduled and the budget calendar has not been amended today. We will publicize when those coffees
Well, I
are,
figured, yeah.
once they're scheduled. So the general budget calendar is more of a guide that's done in November. So a lot of those specific dates are subject to change.
Understood, thanks.
Thank you, Paul.
Thanks, Paul.
Anybody else to the podium? Any comments online? Sorry, I don't have my computer. Trying to get better about it. No? Okay, seeing none, we will be going to executive session. We will not be coming back for a vote, so we will not be coming back online. We appreciate everybody for being a part of our meetings. And if you could please give me a motion to adjourn to executive session, that we will be discussing matters that may lead to the employment of a particular person.
I'll move.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And we'll give a 10-minute recess. Thank you. Matt, please, thank you.